Hello everyone, it's Eon here, and we're going to look back at Sci-Fi for the month of January. This is overview number 2. Let's just get right on into it. Here we're going to start with Across the Realms. Hopefully this won't take my video down. The Valkyrie Drop Squad. Drop it like it's hot. So the Valkyries here come in several different sculpts and options, and these were censored by Across the Realms. We appreciate that. We have the pinup models and the Cult of Death Engineers. You'll notice that some of these come with jetpacks. Some of them do not. Those that do with the jetpacks are called Drop Squad. And that's what we get from Across the Realms. Arcane Whiskers has about 3 different tiers. If you are backing at their most basic tier, I think you only get like those windows, and that's pretty much it. At other tiers, you get the Cathedral Ruins pack and the Nemesis Android, Commander Edling, and the Cyberpunk Scatter pack, which apparently is a re-release. It does say August release up there, as well as some more terrain and general sneaks, a Void Horror, and a Cyclops Droid. Atlan Forge likes to post their releases throughout the month. We've already looked at the Asgardian Demolishers. These again are modular with multiple weapon options. I think that's 5 different weapons I'm counting there. And so you can put these together in several different forms. Whatever your aesthetic, they probably have a set for that. They've now released the Dark Troopers of Hades. Again, these are modular. You see about 5 different backpacks, 3 sets of legs, 5 torsos, 5 heads, several arm and weapon options, as well as several shoulder pad options too. Put them together however you like. They've also put out the Angelic Knights of Ophanum. Again, modular, 3 legs, 5 torsos, multiple weapon options. And just to show you how you can put these together, you can put them in mid-flight or not. Beyond Space often releases throughout the month. We've already looked at January release number 1, Adris the Veilwalker. But now let's look at release number 2, Lorien Bannerman. Release number 3, the Lorien Lancer. Number 4, Osric the Spell Warden. And we have this sneak peek of Knight General Voltaris with both no helmet or helmet options. New to my videos, but not new to the scene, of course, is Custom Miniature Maker. And most of these kind of have a sci-fi or modern fit to them. So we put them here in sci-fi. So there's the barbed wire, as well as a lot of kind of the type of things you would use if you were fighting in a trench. I wonder why that seems to be such a theme right now. I'm being facetious, of course. So these are texture rollers, about 4 inches in length. And what you do is you take a piece of clay and you lay it down and you press the design into these, and they repeat over and over again. You can cut the clay as needed afterwards. But you can see here, like, we have some wounded soldiers' bodies laying there. We have a battlefield that has been walked over by many a boot. And we have some walls of some trenches that you can cut out and put together as well. Again, on the left, these are trench walls. On the right, we can see like spatterings of things. On the left, we have cross-laden mud is what they refer to it as. So we have these crosses that are across there. I'm not sure if these were added to just add strength to the mud, so you're not, you have something to step on, or they just happen to be debris. And the thing on the right, I had to keep looking at, is like, is that a wasp's nest? What is that? It's designed to be sandbags. These are sandbags stacked on top of each other, and they're ridden with bullet holes. So that's what all the little holes are in them as well. Custom Miniature Maker has also put out quite a few other things too. We have these fences and gates, and they have several more pictures on their site that you can look at, but I felt like it was repeating a little bit. And the gate actually works. It does open and close with the pin mechanism. You can also print off a few that have been beat up and torn apart, because obviously these things would not be perfect. They've also put out a couple of bases. Again, the bases with the mud with the footprints in them, as well as I think a bunch of bricks over on the right. And a lot of these bases do come with room for magnets if you want to add magnets to the bottom. And the magnets may not necessarily be for your play area, but maybe for your storage. You get a metal carrier and put the miniatures on there, and then they stay in place when you carry them from place to place. They're also put out this robot, as well as a simple prisoner's cage. Dakka Dakka has released some January releases as well. I think maybe not this guy, but a similar guy is actually available for free. But we have a lot of sewer rats, basically miner rats. So these guys again are modular. You also have some bikers, some gargant digger rat, a shift supervisor, as well as the Holy Department of Heretical Investigations Part 2. Ignisarius Clan Warriors Tactical Squad, and a Commander Mark 1. Unholy Space Coven additional bits, as well as some heads. We've looked at some higher renders of these in the previous video, but here you kind of seeing everything all together, kind of like a finalized set. They've also put out this bonus model of Grimwald the Fused Twin as a loyalty reward. I'm not sure how long you have to be signed up, but it is a January release. I'll be honest, Dakka Dakka, you can keep that one. I'm not a huge fan of those types. I know a lot of you probably like, you're crazy, Eon, but it is what it is. Edge Miniatures has put out a little bit of a preview. They're going back to this 8mm Tech Elves avatar or Super Titan that they have, and they've actually printed it off. And I'm just obsessed with the headpiece to this one, because again, this is meant to be printed at about a normal size, but it's for 8mm armies. And if you look at the head, you can see 2 or 3 pilot crew actually piloting this mech. Again, it kind of reminds me of Power Rangers to some extent, but just to be able to see that level of detail and see these guys, I really wish they had in the picture some of their regular 8mm guys next to them, just to see how big they are compared to this guy. Ghamak likes to release throughout the month. They'll do previews and then come back and talk about each thing. So we see a couple of tanks here. These come with options. And they have released their Sci-Fi timeline as well. So for the month of January and February, we'll be getting 3 armies: Heretic Knights, Freedom Guard, and Cosmic Devourer. In March, the Cosmic Devourers will go away, and we'll be getting Titans and Knights of Temple. And then in April, those will go away, and we'll get Scavengers. Loot Studios does a Sci-Fi release on the 15th of the month every month. So let's look at Hex Machina. I really like this release. So here's pretty much everything that you get for the month of January in the Sci-Fi release from Loot Studios. Here we have the heroes. Apologies for them being so spaced out. This is their graphic, of course. We have Blackjack Flash, Wrecking Ball, a Vixen Witch, Billy Cyberhand, Rockfest Jolene, and Eleanor Blitz. For enemies, we have Project Ares, Nikolai the Traitor Runner, a Private Judge, a Chained Ghoul, a Scorch, which is a Necro Samurai, Vittorio Lasat, Lady Era, and Unholy, a Psycho Killer. I guess that Project Ares is pretty big. Look at the stop sign there. You get some environment, so you have a modular catwalk that you can put together with many prints of those. You have some crates, some neon stalls and diners, a troop carrier. I'm just kind of reading randomly around, but I like these models. These things can be used and be added to your collection in useful ways. For the busts, we have Billy Cyberhand, Unholy Psycho Killer, Eleanor Blitz, Wrecking Ball, and Blackjack Flash. Noticeably his mechanized chameleon companion there. And then they always like to do a prop, well, usually like to do a prop, and the prop this month is a neon billboard. Obviously, the goal here is that you print this off and then you stick your cell phone in there, and you can use it to show videos or images and such, and just add to the environment of the world that they're playing in. I do wish they had a version of this that the billboard was on its side, landscape, instead of just portrait. But the Makers Cult, we've already looked at their first initial release, but they've released this here. These trench style warriors, these are heads that can be used with other models of theirs. And so all of these are the different renders or sculpts of those, and this is how you can use them. These are the heads only. These come from other Maker Cult kits. So you're not getting the entire miniature, just the head. But depending on the type of look you want, you're getting a lot of options here. I'm going to mess this one up. It's Marchen Atelier, and this one's a little bit different. I added this in and I was kind of hesitant to do so because this is Grimdark Cuteness, and this is a kind of maybe a little bit jarring, but I'm doing these alphabetically because it's kind of basically chibi models of some of your favorite style miniatures. So if you have an interest in this, I wanted to put it on your radar for you. So yeah, we can see these here, and a couple of these we have a little bit bigger renders. We have a Chaos Tarantula and a Predator Snood. So obviously not entirely inspired by the original world, but if you have an interest in chibi models or some that are just a little bit more cute than you usually see, definitely worth checking out. Mr. Modulork has a free tier, so don't forget to check that out. In addition, he's hoping to do 5 releases this month. We've got 3. We have Shield Hunters, I would like to point out that these are very similar models. The one on the left has what's essentially a chain sword. The one on the right has an axe. So if you have any interest in using Mr. Modulork's orcs in a fantasy world, it seems like he's got you covered. Again, the one on the left, perfectly fantasy. The one on the right, that's a chain sword. That would be sci-fi. Slightly different sculpts, mostly the same miniature. Both usable. In a sci-fi world, at least. January's second release is Boss Omega Monster A. Notice the monster can come with both armor or without armor. The boss likewise can come with a melee weapon or a ranged weapon. The third release, and the last one of the new releases that we've seen so far, is Zerkas. And these, here's what we have here. And that hasn't been the last release from Mr. Modulork. He's also done a re-release bonus of the Armored Hunters. That's a very very specific looking sword on the right. And I hope that poor fellow on the right, I hope his mom did not name him Claw. That would seem unfortunate. One Page Rules has done, well, first off, before we get into that, on GameFound, they're getting ready to launch a physical set of models for their Grimdark future game. I think it has Saurian Starhost and Robot Legions, I think, are two of the armies, if I remember correctly. So they did this teaser image on the left, and on the right we see what's coming. So if you want to buy physical miniatures and not just the STLs to print them, there's that. I know some people are hoping that they'll sell the physical rule books, which would be nice in all honesty, but part of One Page Rules is the fact that those rules change. So do you want that printed down? Maybe. For their Star Quest, I believe is what it's called, their dungeon crawler sci-fi, we have this Dwarf Guilds guy. We also have some terrain over on the right. We have some Xenos for the war fleets, if I recall correctly. And then we have some Human Defense Force miniatures as well. And again, you usually get 2 models for each of these because it seems like they do male and female. So you'll notice that the left and the right are pretty much the same ones. But if you look, like the one on the left, the top left guy, the 2 left guys have beards, but on the right, they don't because they're women now. They're not men. But yeah, you can see a little bit of variation between the 2. And here, I'm not certain how much they are actually changing up the genders, but look at the weapons. So on the left, we have one big barrel. On the right, we have what I assume is like a mortar. On the left, we have another type of gun, like an arc turret. On the right, we have a 4-barrel like laser of sorts. Yes, there's a woman on the right. And then we have missiles. So lots of options here between both the crew and the weapons of your artillery. Papsikels, who is actually subscribed to my channel, I'm really surprised. I hope they find what I do useful, is doing January 2025 release, Aliens vs. Humans Ascension. And here's a little bit bigger picture. Now, we've looked at most of these models, so I'm not going to rehash that here. If you want to, go check out the Overview 1 video. We've also looked at most of their Cyberpunk release as well, this kid bike gang, along with some other miniatures as well. But there's just an all-together model set that they've done. Now, everybody seems to be wanting to go into the trenches, and Papsikels is jumping in there too, and giving you options for that, which I'm kind of glad they're doing. We have Barkassar, the Praetor of Brutality. And what's really interesting about this model, it's hard to tell from this angle, is if you look at the back of this model, he has what looks to be like steel beams jutting out of his back. Definitely brutal. Print Minis has released some modular buildings, and apparently some people were asking about connecting these together, and that was too difficult. And one of their patrons suggested, why don't you build a bridge? And they were like, yes, we could do that, and then we don't have to redesign everything. And so we have these modular kits that you can connect together with those bridges that we just saw. We also have Code Morph, a Code Splicer Cult, and a Beast Handler. She reminds me of someone I used to work for. Red Pilgrim Miniatures, whose name on my mini factory is also Jucko, is done Interrogator Bogomazov. Again, I think we're kind of hidden into the trenches here. And it said there were a couple of versions of this guy. I do believe we'll see more releases from Red Pilgrim. RedMakers and Adeptus Miniatures, just to rehash really quick, we have the Lawbringers Kill Squad and the Crusaders Covenant. We've already looked at these in a little bit more detail in the previous video, but I don't think I had this image there, so I wanted to include that here. Skullforge Studios has put out a few renders of some of their sets this month. M2 Gallus Hardsuit, or should I say Mark II Gallus Hardsuit. We have some combat bots for deathmatch. We have the first Matey. Okay, I see what you did there. Pirate Droid. M8E. Matey, and Xeno Scav Wolves. And since then, they've also put out these Crossbones crew, which includes that first Matey robot. Soldiers of Humankind is one of those creators I saw on my mini factory and was like, I should add that to my list. Here we have the first release of the Astra Auxilia, and I think more to be released and to come as the month goes on. Stationforge has put out a couple of releases this far. We have the Vodalites Brotherhood. We have I guess maybe the leader. On the right, this guy has pretty typical friar haircut. We have guys with the big weapons. And on the right, I forget, there's a certain name for that type of haircut. And then we see actually I think this is the leader here, the guy with the sword. I thought that he had like those were teeth, but it's his mustache. Now that we see the model up closer, we can see that. And then we have, the fact that these are modular and how they are put together modular, how the different forms come together. The second release from Stationforge are the Scavenger Monks. And again, a couple of a picture of modulation there to show you how they come together. Trident Studios has put out their January release preview. We are getting to see all of these, and it says plus more as well. So let's look at each of these. So again, I had to put notes here to myself. That is Blue Marvel. Here we have Gallon. Very reminiscent of Galactus. This is Guillotine. This is the Leader. Looks like Megamind. We have Throg, which, if you recall, is the frog version of Thor. Here we have Venom the Duck. I guess that's not Howard anymore. Here we have Vulture. Obviously inspired by the more recent Spider-Man movies. And this is apparently Outrider and comes in about 3 different sculpts. 1, 2, and 3. Velrock has put out their Sci-Fi release. Again, I didn't look up what Velrock's release was called, but I think we kind of get an idea of what's inspired it here. I could be wrong. Some heavier weapons as well. Here we have Vermillion Miniatures. Vermillion has put out this preview for January of Steel Rising 2. And unfortunately, this is the only picture I have to show. We have a captain, we have a heavy armor ×2, which comes with helmet options, and 2 engineers, 2 pilots, and 2 squires. I guess the squires are the ones with the proverbial golf bags. Wargames Atlantic hasn't really put out any new renders, but these are slightly different model images. So we have these from Deathfields. I think these were called Bulldogs. From World Ablaze, the Second World War. And from these Napoleonics. And that ends overview number 2 for the month of January 2025. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll do a third overview before the month ends if we can. Month ends on a Friday, so it'll be a close call. We'll see. And I'll see you in the next video regardless.